The one who insists. I have been married for almost 5 years and together with the same woman for 8 years. We have 3 young children together, 1.5, 5 and 8-year-old. My wife, stay-at-home wife, left with the kids in February of 2018 and wants a divorce. She had disclosed to me that she felt it was time to move on and that she was going to tell all of her friends that I'm leaving you. Back in October of 2017, I had begged her a couple of times to stay. She did agree that she was going to stay for the holidays and the birthdays in January, but after my birthday she was going to start to move out. In August of 2017 I had noticed that my wife was texting, emailing, and on Facebook much more than normal, and it was increasing and especially noticeable in October. I had asked her a couple of times, "Whom are you talking to?" And after she had disclosed that she was leaving me, I had also asked, "Is there an OM?" She awkwardly came up with excuses with texting and quietly smiled and giggled and said, "No, there is no other man." The day after my birthday on January 16th until the day she left on February 21st, it was a series of whirlwind of events. When I would get home, she would leave me with the kids and go out and sometimes not return until midnight. Her excuse was, "I have to make new friends and get out of here." If I asked her where she was going, she would angrily say, "I'm getting out of this hellhole." There was tension in the home, yes, but there was no fighting. I had accepted the fact that I cannot change her mind, and I had hoped that we could reconcile in the future. On my days off, she was home for maybe an hour and would leave me with the kids and be out for almost the entire day and return late. In that 5-week period she had not returned home 2 nights. I was concerned and had told her to at least call so I know that she is safe, and her response was that I didn't think that you cared. It had not crossed my mind that she was out with an OM. I had trusted her through our entire marriage, and it was not in her character to do something like this. 2.5 weeks after she had moved out, it was my turn to have the kids on the weekend, and she emailed me at work and said, "BTW, if the kids mention it, I have a boyfriend." I was floored, shocked, and my world felt like it had gone upside down. I was and still am so angry at her for introducing an OM to the kids so early in the divorce to the kids. She has also told me that he sleeps over there. She said that it was heartbreaking to hear my 5-year-old son ask, "Is Jeff going to sleep on the couch like Daddy did?" We were going through MC last year and things had broken down with communication, and I had spent several months on the couch. I had gone to her house a couple of weeks after she had disclosed OM and talked to her. I got the speech about, "I love you like a brother, but I don't have tension with you. Jeff is just a friend, but we are sleeping together now, so we are boyfriend and girlfriend." The entire 8 years was a terrible marriage that never should have happened. This is the toughest thing that I have ever gone through in my life. The most painful part is that she makes it extremely difficult to communicate about the kids or anything. She refuses to talk on the phone and will only allow for me to talk to her via email, and that is it. She had wanted to do a legal separation agreement but refused to do it in person and wanted the whole thing facilitated via email. And that's it. I've gone from a busy home life with seeing kids day in and day out to only seeing them every second weekend. I feel like a wreck. We have had our difficulties. She tells me that I was emotionally and financially abusing her, and that she was done with the marriage. We had gone to MC a few times and were separated for short periods of times for 3 times. I knew things were really bad, but I did not realize that she had checked out of the marriage about a year ago. I had thought that somehow we may turn a corner. I had not given up in my marriage, and I would never have cheated on her like she did. We did not sleep together for a long time. Nearly 2 years since the birth of my last son. She was prone to PPD, and the last time it was very bad. I had lost interest with her in that regards because of the constant fighting and complaining. Had I known what I know now, I would have put every effort into this. Dealing with her now is a hellish experience. I'm trying to get a custody and visitation agreement done with her, and she ignores my requests. She says there is no chance in getting back together. She did say before she left that there may be a chance that we may marry again. And I feel like that I'm going to lose my kids because she is going to move in with OM due to the financial viability, that she will not sustain herself, or that she will move out of town to where her friends and family are several hours away, or move to another province where most of her family is. Every single day I think about her when I wake up until I go to bed. I think, what the hell happened? Why did she do this? Why did she put herself in front of the kids and not give it another chance? Why is this destruction towards the kids? I had been waiting to see what she was going to do, and there is a part of me that did not want to cause financial distress for both, but she leaves me no choice. My kids are my life, and I have to protect myself, and more importantly protect them and get whatever rights that I have enforced. Time to lawyer up. OM, he's a little older than me. I'm 39 and he's mid-40s. My wife is 31. He has never had children. There are actually 4 kids. She has a child that is 14 from a previous relationship as well that I did not mention. My apologies. It blew my mind. What does a man that has never had a family want with a woman with 4 kids? I had thought about exposing the to his family. I found him on FB. I was curious, and at the same time I wanted to know his last name just in case something happened. But I did not consider sending information or exposure about it to her family. They have already met him. I'm not sure what difference it would make, but I know that she has blamed me for everything in this, so maybe I can expose my side of the story. My 5-year-old son was asking me, "Dad, when are you getting a girlfriend?" And it felt like a knife to the heart. Why am I in this position to have to explain to my son that no, Dad is not getting a girlfriend? Not for a long time. I'm not a legal expert by any means. Yes, in Canada there is no such thing as fault divorce. It's no fault. I believe in the US it's different from state to state. I can divorce her now instead of having to wait 12 months on the grounds of adultery. In my 39 years, I have never come across a person as impulsive, aggressive, and as stubborn as her. I'm not kidding. If I had tried to get in her way, she would have forcefully taken the kids out. I did not want to cause a scene or trauma to the kids. What I believe is that she thought that she could move out with the kids. I pay child support, spousal support, and that I would not accept it and not react. Like I mentioned, she is impulsive, shoot first, aim later. She had even told me that she knew so many of her friends that were miserable with their spouses and they could not believe that she did it with no money. I guess she thought that is a feather in her cap. I am allowed to see the kids, but it's such a monumental pain in the ass to facilitate anything with her, and she uses two kids as a bargaining chip to put me in my place. If she leaves for another province, I'm going to seeing the kids every couple of weeks to a couple of weeks out of the year and have to deal with her and her self-centered and aggressive behavior. The visitation at the moment is that she wants every couple of weekends when she works. I see them for a couple of hours after school in between that, and that she'll see how it goes from there. From my understanding, we are still married and I have the exact same rights as her. We were renting and she moved into a subsidized townhouse and I took a one-bedroom app due to the high cost of child support in Alberta. The only money that I give her is money for the kids, and that's it. She gets some child support, not much, from a previous ex for the stepdaughter. I know she has a part-time job and she also does babysit for a few hours a week out of her home. She got into a minor fender bender, about $800, and tried to come after me to pay and I refused. She had found a place that gives her nice rent, $378. They are allowed to subsidize in November, and if she doesn't get it then it goes to $12 a month. That's all that. No. She won't speak on the phone and won't talk to me about anything in person when I go and pick up the kids. I sent her a text and telling her I'm filing and I will have her pay for it, and she simply said okay. I did notify her family today with a long email and I saved it and sent it to all of her family as a template. I was contemplating if I should send emails to her friends, but I will tonight. I changed my account when she moved out so there would be no access to money from my paycheck. She didn't have credit to get a cell phone, so her mother took over ownership. I still owed money before it was taken over and it was going to go to collections. I called the phone company today, settled the bill, but also told them that I want paper records sent for all of my bills for her cell phone. I told the agent I'm getting a divorce and I need it for my lawyer. I'm getting it sent for February all the way back to August. I'll go through the numbers and call the ones that I don't know until I find him. If I find his number in August, I'm going to go further back. I agree I will fight for my kids and see if I can get them back home with me. I did confront her and said that I have no idea whom this man is and if he was ex or not, and she laughed it off. I can't stand that my kids talk about OM when I have them, but my daughter did say that mom was recounting how she had met Jeff. What is that? Telling the kids on how you met the love of your life. Anyways, STBX met OM through our neighbor and I went through her Facebook account and found him. I wanted to at least get a last name, so if I have to give to the cops for whatever reason I can, and also, I was curious as well. He's a pothead. Let me make this clear. I do not put my kids in the middle of this and I don't talk to them about adult things. I will let them talk for a little while, then I will say, okay, it's enough talking about Jeff, let's talk about something else. Or that's adult talk and we don't need to talk about that. I've dealt with lawyers before and I agree with you. You get what you pay for. Here it's called legal aid and I don't qualify, and even if I did, I would never go through them. I can't get help with the bank, so I'm reaching out to family for help at the moment. I'm turning over every rock so I can at least get a retainer for my lawyer. I can't wrap my head around this guy. Mid-40s, never had kids, ex-smoker. He's chasing a woman with 4 kids by 2 different dads and now potentially a 5th child if he knocks her up, and the kids will be from 3 different dads. Whatever. She doesn't want me, so best of luck to the both of them. He's in for a ride with her temper, criticism, stubbornness, pride, and refusal to take ownership in anything. In 8 years, I lost almost everything single fight with her. Wait until the honeymoon is over and they have their first fight. The cycle she had with me will repeat all over again. She does let me see my kids, but what I want is an agreement on paper and done with lawyers for joint or shared custody and visitations done. Like whom gets the kids on holidays? I get them on odd years and she gets them on even years, or how long I get them for summer holidays and how long she gets them, etc. The details hashed out without having to hear from her. I'm sure we agreed on this when we have not, and it turns into an argument that I lost when it started. She is the type of person that it has to be her way or no way. I know her. The kids, every single weekend I get them, it's a major pain in the back with dealing with her. It's always something. I want legal docs to minimize that garbage, and I want everything figured out when it comes to the kids. Financial stuff I can deal with the banks for my half and tell them I'm done with the rest, and she can pay for the other half. It's a divorce and I'm sure that they have dealt with that before, and I don't need her to facilitate my half. Think of it this way. Hiccup times, changes in pickup times, or wanting me to get them or bring them back for something then take them again is all done through email. She only responds to what she responds to, and if I ask her something, she ignores it. She is a bee. I was with her for 8 years and saw her constantly fight her ex over her daughter, my stepdaughter. You would think that in 14 years since they had that child that she would have cooled off. I want to sort this out now so I don't regret this for the rest of my life. She was hell on him and still is to this day. I want it sorted out legally and not have to be subjected to what she thinks is fit. This guy lives out of town and but not very far. Her family lives about 6 hours from here. For 2 years she tried to convince me that she wanted to go back home with her parents and friends. And I did not want to go because there are not many jobs there and I wanted to stay here, where my job is. Her rent may go up in November. There are only so many places in the complex that get subsidized. Out of 40 maybe 10 and they have to go and reapply for it. It's private, not government, and the company gets a tax break, I'm assuming. Or it may be financially difficult for her. But she will want to go back home where her mom and dad and family are. The parents are divorced as well. The dad left a marriage of 24 years for his wife's best friend, but whatever. Go figure, the apple does not fall far from the tree. It will happen either in a few months but at the latest by next year. I want this figured out now before she takes off. Is it too much to ask to get the details set now? As it's set in stone. That's all that I want. Everything else is just debt between us. She has something else coming if she thinks she is going to get spousal support, or my pension, etc. Yes, she is entitled to happiness, and if she doesn't like to be married to me, fine. But be mature, don't have an affair or look for an exit relationship. Leave me then date. But don't have an affair and lie to me and saying she needed friendship with someone and then you introduce this man that may or may not be in my kids' lives for a long time. Don't change the history of our marriage by saying that the entire marriage from start to finish was bad or blame me to make it right in her mind, or that it was okay that she had an affair. It's a marriage. Get out if you don't like it, but don't bring this destructiveness on the kids. She kept going back and saying, but I told you in October I was leaving you. And after she had moved out and I had one talk with her, she simply said, sorry. She let the cat out of the bag after she left. Now she's in her own home and she knows she got away with it. Plus, she put herself in front of the kids and tells the kids that mom and dad are ex-wife and ex-husband, already to lie to them to make it okay because dad is not around anymore but this new guy. 2.5 weeks after moving out after she left, and he sleeps over there already. 12 months too soon if you ask me. I can't control what she does, but I can detest the fact that she is not factoring the kids' emotional state. They don't understand what happened, but only that something serious happened. This is the worst pain that I have ever felt in my life, and I would not wish it on my worst enemy, but that's beside the point. It's the kids that are important to me and figuring out a workable agreement. A lawyer will deal with it, take away the stress that she causes, and give her the push that she needs. My comment, don't bother with the details. OP, most betrayed partners always want the truth. Sometimes you just don't want to know too much. It's better to just run. Story 2. My husband got an email at work from an old girlfriend who he knew before me and almost married. She is single. He waited several days but eventually told me about it. I asked him to forward it to our home email where I could read it. He got very angry and said no, that I would email her and tell her to stop. I said I would never do that. My real reason was that he's not supposed to take personal emails at work, and I thought it would be better to have it on our own email. After continuing to be very angry and saying that he'd only do it this one time, he forwarded the email. Turns out he had responded to the email. She initiated the email, and then went on to ask about life and family, etc., and talked about her mom passing. He emailed back that he would have been in touch with her had he known and said, maybe we can catch up one of these days. She emailed back that she'd like to do that and maybe she'd see him at a football game. Funny thing is that the day he was emailing her, that evening he brought up with me the possibility of going to a home football game soon. Is this coincidence? I was not pleased by these emails, especially since the last time they met, 7 years ago, I was left alone at a football game not knowing where he was for almost an hour while he talked with her. He never did bring her over to talk with me. I was so upset about this and he knows it. So, for this to be brought up again as a way to meet is very hurtful to me. When I tried to talk with him about this and how it hurts me, he got very angry and mad at me, as if it was all my problem and I was overreacting. In the midst of trying to talk about this, he brought up if I wanted a divorce. What? I told him that I wanted him not to have contact with her, that I didn't trust her and I feel uncomfortable about the whole thing. I said that if he had further contact with her, I considered it a form of cheating and I didn't want that in our marriage. He was totally shut down, rolling his eyes and acting like I was an idiot. To cool down, I took the dog for a walk. It was around 9:30 p.m., and when I got back the front light was off and the house locked up. I had to ring the doorbell twice before he opened the door. I asked why he did this and he said he didn't know I had left. How could he have not known? I leashed up the dog and went for the walk right in front of him. I slept in the guest room and this morning it was the silent treatment. Before he left for work, I noticed a page open on his notebook that had a list with her name, another woman's name, someone he went to college with, and another woman, etc. What does this mean? He left for work, but I noticed his shaving kit is all packed up on the bathroom sink. Have I done something wrong? He's acting like I'm the one at fault here. I tried talking with my husband tonight, but he's still really angry with me. I remained calm the whole time, never raised my voice, and tried to be reasonable. He says I emasculated him when I demanded he forward the emails from work to home. I told him I was sorry, but that wasn't my intention, again reiterating that I was concerned about his having personal emails on a government server, which he's told me is not allowed. He will not give any indication that he understands why I asked this of him, but keeps returning to my emasculating him. I said I had a few questions that would help me to understand things, and he got all huffy and said he didn't have to answer anything, but then very reluctantly did. I asked why he didn't share about the emails right away, and he said he didn't want to ruin the evening because he wanted to make love. That same evening, he brought up the idea of going to a home football game, and I asked if it had anything to do with her email where she said maybe they could get together at a game. He said no, it didn't. Not once did he say anything like "I'm sorry this upset you," or anything anywhere like an apology. Not even to locking me out of the house, which he still maintains he had no idea I had left and was just locking up the house for the night. Which is nuts because both the dog and I were gone for over a half hour. I said that to me boundaries are important and I need to know what they are for him. Years ago, we agreed no contact with exes. He made that very clear when one of my exes got in touch, and I was okay with that because an ex means nothing to me. And yet now he has yet to say that he will not have further contact with this woman. He wants to send another email right away responding to her question about his mom. But when I said I was uncomfortable about further contact after that, he would not agree. I'm at a loss. He says I'm being all in my head and he's fed up with it. Actually, he got really angry at this point. He brought up seeing a counselor, which I'm really happy to do and which I'm very surprised about because in the past he's always said he would get a divorce before ever seeing a counselor. So, in a way, I guess this is a positive. FYI, I have no problem with him having lunch with female colleagues or having female friends. I have only gotten worried about two women. This old ex who he was very serious about and another woman who made it clear to me she was after him. I think he just wants to drop the whole thing. Without any apologies, without any understanding on his part of why I might have been concerned, without any setting of boundaries. Just drop it. Problem is I still feel bad. Am I nuts? I may be insecure, as we all are under certain circumstances, but generally I am not. I don't have a problem with my husband having female friends, and of course, I understand no one has control over who emails them. The problem with conducting personal emails at my husband's workplace is that it is government, and the rules are very strict against this. You can get fired for it, and people have. He has told me repeatedly I can never email him there, and neither can friends. I'm surprised she emailed him there because they were together long enough for her to know that emailing him at his government job is not acceptable. And given how he's a stickler for following the rules, I'm surprised he emailed back and forth with her on the work email. This is totally not something he'd usually do. He said I could read the emails on his work email. He's able to do this from home, which was okay with me, but still did not address the issue of them still being on his work email. My suggestion was that it'd be wiser to move them to our home email rather keep them on his work email given the rules. I can't begin to explain how furious he became when I suggested this. It was weird and made me feel like something more was happening here that I still don't understand. My only intention had been to remind him about the danger of doing personal emails at his work and to get it off that system before he got in trouble. Instead, he got absolutely furious with me for asking this and said I was emasculating him. He's still furious with me. Yes, I agree, there is something else going on here and I'm at a loss to know what it is. It's obvious he did not like the idea of the emails being on our home email. He said it was because he worried I would contact the woman and tell her to stop emailing him. I would not do this, and I told him I was hurt that he thought I would do that. It's apparent that at this time he does not want to discuss or review what our boundaries with exes should be. He just wants me to drop the whole thing. He wants to email this woman again, and has said so. When I said that once more foreclosure was okay with me, he got upset and angry. I can only think it was because I was trying to set a boundary and he made a comment that was 500 words okay, or 50, or what, and he rolled his eyes and made out like I was being stupid. Truth is I was not upset or concerned until he became so defensive, angry and resistant. And yes, it would have been nice to have some feedback from him later that he had some idea of why I might wonder what was happening, especially after his encouragement to her to keep in touch and locking me out of the house. Late last night, Saturday, he announced he was going to go fishing today. No asking about my plans or what I might want to do or if I might want to come. We usually talk about our weekend plans and coordinate set, sun activities, making time for both alone and together times. For example, if he says he's thinking of fishing, I might give input if Saturday or Sunday is better based on if he wants to fish alone or wants company. Or there's other things happening that he might want to be part of or we might want to do together, etc. Actually, come to think about it, this has been happening more lately where he just announces what he's going to do like it's a done deal. No checking in with me. And it's always late at night or at the last minute, so I'm left figuring out what I'm going to do. I don't have a problem with doing things on my own, but lately I find myself alone at home a lot more. I couldn't sleep last night because of this ongoing stress, so read the paper. Noticed there was a free concert today at noon at a local winery and decided, last minute, I'd go while he was fishing. As he was leaving this morning, I announced I was going to the concert. No checking in with his schedule, just going to do it. He didn't say a word but left. Usually, he fishes all day, so I was really surprised when he came home at noon. He said he thought I'd be gone. I asked if he wanted to come and he said he'd meet me there later. Okay, he did, and it was nice. I think I'm going to need to let him know that if he's going to be a free agent, so I too can play this game. Last night was pure hell. This never seems to end. He asked why I was still upset, as if I was nuts for being quiet. I think he thought that because he joined me at the winery earlier everything was okay now. That everything should be back to normal. I told him I was feeling withdrawn because there were still things I needed to hear from him. Some kind of acknowledgement that his behavior and not just mine was making things worse, and that we needed to clarify the boundary thing. Are we following our original boundaries or making new ones? I told him I couldn't just wait and wait, not knowing when he'd be ready to discuss this. He's been aggressively and angrily avoiding it. Meanwhile, days and days have gone by and I'm losing weight, losing sleep, not knowing what he's thinking or doing. It's just not fair or loving and incredibly disrespectful to me and our marriage, in my humble opinion. So, I said that when I got back from my walk with the dog, I wanted a date when he'd be ready to discuss boundaries. I took this approach because trying to initiate the discussion myself has failed miserably, and I thought that maybe if he chose the date it would help. I got back from the walk and asked him if he had a date yet. He got really quiet and looked at me with deep disgust on his face. He said he thought I was being absolutely asinine about the whole thing. I decided not to respond to that. He said we should be able to respond if an ex contacts us. So, I asked if he was okay if I responded if an ex contacts me. He said yes, but we should talk about further contact after that. I asked, does responding mean a return email or does it mean ongoing emails back and forth, because I would not be comfortable with that. He said it meant just a return email and any further contact we should talk about first. I asked if this applies to his ex since they'd already emailed each other about getting together sometime. He got really quiet but finally said yes. I told him I was okay with these new boundaries. I thought this would make things be better, but instead he looked even more disgusted, like I was some kind of worm. I wish I could describe how he was looking at me and his body language. He basically stormed out of the room. I called him back and asked why he was looking at me with such disgust. I was calm and really trying to understand. He said he couldn't believe I was putting him through all this, that I was demanding too many ultimatums, and that our marriage was in really big trouble because of how I was treating him. He felt so remote from me, like he was far away, like he'd already come to some decision inside himself, like I was some kind of ugly piece of dirt that he was putting up with. I flipped out. I have never ever in my life flipped out like this. It came from somewhere deep inside me. It was something I can't explain. It's embarrassing to even think about. So, unlike me, I wish you knew me, because then you'd know how unlike me this is. I couldn't stop screaming. It was like getting stabbed in the heart over and over again. I got my purse and my jacket and tried to leave, but this thing was coming from so deep inside me that I couldn't breathe or move. My God, it was awful. I was screaming, how dare you treat me this way. I remember swearing at him and calling him an idiot. I really can't remember everything I said. I totally flipped out. I told him I hated his ex and didn't want her between us. Next thing I remember is his saying over and over he didn't mean to hurt me like this. He seemed really concerned, and for the first time in all these days he was actually looking me in the eye. I felt his presence with me. I finally calmed down and could breathe again. I really thought I was going to have a heart attack or something. I told him we were at a fork in the road, that I really love him and want our marriage to work, but he has to want it too. I told him I thought we had a golden opportunity to work on our marriage if we catch this right now and not sweep things under the rug, limping along until the next crisis when we blow up all over again because we didn't fix things. I asked what he wanted to do. He said he wanted to try fixing this rather than seeing a counselor. I brought up the idea of reading a chapter of the book he got and then making a date to talk about it each week. He agreed and brought up Thursdays as the day. I figured if he was willing to work at this, then I'm okay with however we get started. Personally, I think it may take more than reading books together, but maybe that'll do it. Mainly, I can't begin to tell you how healing it was to have him initiate something supportive of our relationship, and to have him say it with a kind look on his face. I yearn for that kindness. Maybe too much, and maybe that is something I need to work on. Today I'm struggling a little with how pathetic I must have looked freaking out like that. Or maybe it wasn't pathetic. Maybe it was a real response to an awful situation. I don't know. I've never felt that raw inside before. But it was honest, and it was the deepest part of me, and I won't deny that. Update: what if instead I change my own mindset, change me, and wake up each morning with a promise to myself that I will only be around people that don't hurt me. I will only be around people that treat me respectfully regardless of what is happening. I certainly do that with other people. I think before acting. It takes an awful lot for me to treat someone disrespectfully, and that has only happened when I have been pushed beyond my limit. But even then, I am ashamed and apologize and make amends. So instead of focusing on my husband, I will change and focus on me. I will be selfish. This is a huge change for me. I felt a little piece of this mindset beginning when my husband blew up at me and threatened to leave last year because I was upset over the email with PV. In that instant, I felt something change inside of me. It was a breaking of some kind of bond, and it caused me to start doing some things very differently. I have now rekindled long dormant personal pursuits, such as playing music. I've been thinking more about me, but I was still in the mindset of wanting him to change. I have always thought it is important to not be selfish, but instead to sacrifice for family. I still think it is important to focus on family, but not at the expense of myself. Am I finally coming to terms with what this actually means? So, each day, each second, I stand alone. If my husband treats me well in all things, then I will be with him. If he doesn't, then I won't. And I don't need to tell him about how I've changed my mindset, because all that matters is that I am treated well. Period. I came into this marriage from a physically and emotionally abusive first marriage and an upbringing with alcoholic, very self-centered parents. We were upper middle class. Everything looked right on the outside, but a lot happened behind closed doors that was highly dysfunctional. I really thought I had it figured out, but blindly went into my first marriage at a very young age thinking that I could change my husband into someone responsible. Not. And then went into my second marriage with high hopes that it would be different because my new husband was so much more responsible and nicer. I overlooked lots of little rude things in my attempt to not rock the boat. I was dishonest to myself, if that makes sense. I allowed myself to be a doormat on too many things. 2 years later, my H and I are doing better. He promised not to be in contact with 3 single women, exes and good friend, who caused major problems before. Advice here was great, and after much inner work on myself, I followed through with consistently setting good boundaries and consequences and taking care of myself. H is also working on expressing frustration and anger better after I applied same boundaries and consequences to this behavior as well. He saw a therapist who helped with that. I am enjoying our marriage again. However, sometimes I get overwhelmed with memories, especially if something happens that reminds me of these women and what happened. And what is sad is that at times, if my husband is being nice in a new way, for example, he started holding my hand, which is something I've always wanted him to do but he would not do before, I find myself feeling a bit of happiness but also sadness because of all the years I missed out on that loving gesture, that it took such hard work to get things back on track. Am I being ungrateful? Another example is last night when we were making love, a song came on that was associated with one of the women, and it dampened how I felt inside. I went through the motions but felt drained and sad. The feeling lasted through to today, although I am feeling better as the day has gone on. So, this is mostly about me. My comment: damage to the marriage can take a long time to recover from. Triggers of past events are normal but most fade eventually. Talk to your husband about how you feel.